I am Anil Kumar. Welcome to my YouTube channel and the website Global Math Institute. Here is a request from some of my students. They need a test paper on rational expressions and applications. So normally applications is where most students get stuck, and therefore I have taken up some very good application questions in this particular video. There are 13 questions. We'll go through these questions one by one. I'll actually give you an opportunity to solve the test paper, and in case you need help from me, you can always send an email on the address given. You can also share your comments and suggestions in the comments. So let's begin with the questions. First, we'll go through all the 13 questions quickly so that you get an idea whether it is worth going through this video or not. Question number 1 here is, identify the rational expression that is equivalent to 2 minus x over 3x. 4 choices are given to you. So normally we do have a couple of multiple choice questions right in the beginning, which may look like this, and these are based on rational expressions, correct? Second question is, simplify 4x squared minus 9 over 4x plus 6. There are 4 options given to you with restrictions. Now it is important to write restrictions whenever you are working with rational expressions, whether they are specified or not in the test. Question number 3. Determine lowest common denominator of this and this. So we are interested in just finding the lowest common denominator. It really helps to add or subtract rational functions. So we are building up concepts in this stage, and soon we'll get into some real good questions. For what value of x is this expression undefined? So basically the denominator is not equal to 0. You need to factor this and then figure out which is the right answer. So x is equal to half minus 1, or x is equal to minus half minus 5, and these are the other 2 choices. Question number 5. A vertical asymptote of rational function is the same as the value that makes denominator 0. Many students think that is the right answer. But is it the right answer? We are looking into the vertical asymptotes, and there are 3 other options. Now, question number 6. Now, this is kind of thinking question, which is very good question. Create 2 rational expressions whose product results in a graph with whole at x equals to minus 1, x equals to 2.5, and vertical asymptote at x equals to plus minus 4. Express your answer in factored form. So this is a thinking question. I'd like you to read this once again, try to understand, note down the information required. We really want 2 rational expressions whose product, right? So separately write down the 2 rational expressions, right? So whose product is, so you have to write a rational expression, right? 2 of them, and then provide the solution. Clear? Question number 7 is a word problem. Now this is where most students get stuck because it's 2-worded, and therefore they get lost in between. The idea is to break this down into simpler sentences, understand, and then solve. Question 7 is, an estimate of cost, C of x, in billions of dollars to keep the atmosphere in Canada X% free of chemical toxin is given by x minus 2 over 110 x minus x squared divided by x squared plus 18x minus 40 over 5x squared plus 100x. So that is the expression. Simplify the expression and state the restrictions, right? So it is important to state the restrictions as mentioned earlier also, right? Is sometimes the part of the question also. And part B is determine the cost to keep the atmosphere 99% free of chemical toxin. So once you simplify this expression, then you have to solve this word problems. It's not that bad. I mean, you're straight away given a statement which tells you to divide, right? And remember, when you write restrictions for such a division of rational functions, remember you have to give restrictions for both numerator and denominator of the divisor. Now here is question number 8. That is also a very interesting test question which I've seen many times in test papers. Question number 8. The volume V of gas increases or decreases by its temperature T according to Charles' law by the formula V1 over V2 equals to T1 over T2, right? So they are directly proportional. If temperature increases, volume increases. Perfect. Determine V1 if V2 is given to you n square minus 16 over n minus 1, T1 is n minus 1 over 3, and T2 is n plus 4 over 6. So basically, you have to rearrange this particular formula and then do product or quotient of rational expressions. Make sense? So these two examples are worded, but basically you are doing product or quotient. In question number 9, it's a word problem, relatively simple but common. If one student can complete the decoration of the prom in 5 days, working alone, another student could do it in 3 days, and the third could do it in 4 days. How long will it take them working together? So you can write the answer in hours and minutes, right? So convert them to hours to minutes to cut this answer, right? Okay. So remember, rate of doing work, that should help you to answer this question. Question number 10. A round trip flight took 5 hours flying time. That means going and coming back. The plane traveled 720 miles to the city at 300 miles per hour with no wind. How strong was the wind on the return flight? Was the wind a headwind or a tailwind? So that's another question. So these questions have been picked from my students in US, and you see the units in miles, right? Okay, question number 11. Now this is a pretty long question, need patience to go through it and understand. The concentration C of caffeine from a large Tim Hortons coffee in the bloodstream T hours after consumed is given by the expression C equals to 3T plus 15 over T square minus 25. And from a Starbucks coffee is given by the expression 4T square minus 1 over 2T square plus 9T minus 5. Well, these are just the equations, not reality, right? Because these two are the brand name companies here in Canada. Okay. If a person has 1 cup of each on Friday morning, back to back, simplify them, determine the concentration of caffeine after 4 hours, right? So that's the question, right? So work it out. So basically now we're talking about addition of rational expressions, correct? So it's just a worded problem, but simply it means what? Simply it means something like this with addition. You get the idea, right? So okay, let's get back to a straightforward question. Divide and write the restriction. So very simple question right there. Because earlier we had a similar question, but many students might have missed it because of the wordings. Now here is a straightforward question just to check whether you can write correctly the restrictions when quotient of rational expressions is there, right? The last question here is a graphing question to make this test absolutely complete. So we have taken care of all the things. We began the simple rational functions, looking into their restrictions, equivalent rational expressions, operations like multiplication, division, addition, or subtraction, and then some worded problems, and now a graph. So say sketch the graph of y equals to 4x plus 12 over 2x squared minus 18. So that is the set. I hope you understand and appreciate it. You can always get back to me sending email on the given address. in case you need more similar questions or something like that, or in case you need clarification on solution of any of these questions. Now, since I thought you've come with me along such a long way up to question number 13, let me actually sketch the graph of this particular function and explain you a few concepts.
After attending university. The winner of this year's Certificate of Achievement Schulich Leader Award is anil.anilkhandelwal.
Great. Our student, Akshat, gets highest marks and the most prestigious Schulich Leader Award. You can be there. Join our classes and excel.
Now, these concepts will help you to answer initial questions also, right? So, let's see. How do we sketch the graph of the rational function? So, we are given the equation y equals to 4x plus 12 over 2x square minus 18. So, the idea here is to write an equivalent simplified expression. So step 1 is simplify. Right? And of course, you have to write down the restrictions which we could do after factoring, correct? So simplify really means to factor. So the numerator 4 is common, correct? And we get x plus 3 in the numerator. In the denominator, 2 is common. And what we get here is x squared minus 9. Now, x squared minus 9 can also be factored as sum and difference, right, product, correct? So, we get this. We could, at this stage, simplify the numbers at least. So, we get 2 here, right? So, we could write this as 2 times x plus 3. And the denominator being x plus 3 times x minus 3. And again, we can now simplify by cancelling x plus 3. So you can see that I could write the given expression as 2 over x minus 3. Very simple. Now the question is, which we came across in the beginning also, are these equivalent? Are these equivalent? So the answer is no, they are not. Because we did not write the restrictions. You get the idea. Because this simplified version has only one restriction, and which is x is not equal to 3. However, the expression before it has two restrictions. You get the idea. Therefore, we have to write here that x is not equal to plus or minus 3. You get the idea. Once you write this, then they are equivalent rational expressions. So this is what we had asked you in one of our questions earlier. Perfect? Okay. Now, basically, we need to sketch the graph of y equals to 2 over x minus 3, where x is not equal to plus and minus 3. So let me rewrite and think about it. So one thing is very clear, that in simplified version, we have x minus 3 in the denominator. So clearly, we have a vertical asymptote at x equals to 3, correct? So that is our vertical asymptote. Now let me sketch the vertical asymptote at x equals to 3. So there we go, right? So we have a vertical asymptote at x equals to 3. Make sense? Now we have the other restriction that x is not equal to minus 3. Now at minus 3, what do we have? So we have a hole at x equals to minus 3, because you know this term which cancelled, this cancellation leads to a hole. So whenever you have a common factor in numerator and denominator, then that leads to not a vertical asymptote, a hole. So there was a question related to that also. You get an idea. So it kind of gives you an insight to the questions earlier asked. So it's a concept-based test for you. Very important to understand. So now, at minus 3, what's the value?
So let us calculate the value at x equals to minus 3. So when you substitute minus 3, what do we get in the expression? Y equals to 2 over x minus 3. It is 2 over minus 3, which is 2 over minus 6, which can be simplified as minus 1 over 3. So now we know exactly the coordinate points for the whole. It is x value of minus 3 and y value of minus 1 over 3. Correct? Here, x equals to minus 3. So let me show this whole on the graph, right? So minus 3 and minus 1 over 3. So 1, 2, 3, and somewhere here, right? So somewhere here we have a hole. You get the idea. So we got a hole here, we got a vertical asymptote. Perfect. So here we have a vertical asymptote, which is x is equal to 3. And we have a hole here, which is at minus 3 minus 1 over 3. Clear? Now we can find x and y intercepts. Okay. So that should help us to, so x-intercept. So x-intercept is when y equals to 0. When y equals to 0. Well, y is never 0, but you could see that in this expression, the denominator is of higher degree. So there is none, right? But what do you notice here? Since the denominator is of higher degree, we have a horizontal asymptote, right? Which is y equals to 0. So let me sketch a horizontal asymptote now. Horizontal asymptote really means that when x approaches a large positive or negative value, y approaches, in this case, 0. Therefore, we have a horizontal asymptote, y equals to 0, right? So that is the horizontal asymptote which we have, right? So we say horizontal asymptote y equals to 0. Means the function is going to approach this particular point. Now let's find the y-intercept. Y-intercept is when x equals to 0. So we have y equals to 2 over 0 minus 3, which is minus 2 over 3. So y-intercept is minus 2 over 3, somewhere there, right? Somewhere there. So that helps us to sketch the graph. Remember, we have a vertical asymptote. So let me just go like this. Do you see this graph coming up, right? And leave this area and then go like this. Does it make sense to you? So it's a curve like 1 over x. And on this side, you can actually plot some more points here and then sketch the graph, correct? So that is how your graph is going to look like. Make sense? Right? Where you have to identify that this is your y-intercept and mark it very clearly as minus 2 over 3. Right? So this is a very small graph, so I've just shown this with arrows. You can make a bigger one and slightly better. Does it make sense to you? So we have a graph here in which we have a hole and a vertical asymptote. You get an idea, right? So we had a similar question earlier. So doing this, we have really answered half of the test paper. So you see how important the question is. I hope you understand and appreciate it. So these were our questions which you need to answer. Couple of them are multiple choice questions, not very difficult, but concept based. Once you get these concepts, you can actually score very good marks. We will now get back to you with more questions based on different chapters on pre-calculus. This is a subject which is very popular. I hope you have understood the concepts of rational expressions, application problems related to these concepts, and also at the end, how do we sketch the graph? In case you want to learn more about it, you can always send an email on the address given or contact us on our website. Thanks for your time and all the best.